The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only. Any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk.
Hello, and welcome to That's What We Said, a podcast where we offer our insight and perspective on a variety of topics that touch our lives, and probably yours, on a daily basis. I'm Miley, and with me is
Corby,
and welcome to this week's episode.
So Miley, how about this week we start off with you? How was your weekend?
My weekend was fine. On Saturday, I went to a birthday party, a 5-year-old birthday party. And then on Sunday, I did a whole lot of nothing. I just watched TV.
Nice.
Thought about stuff, and one thing I thought about was I'm going to be married for 20 years.
Wow.
In May, it's going to be my 20th anniversary. And that's it tripped me out because it's been a long time. We've been married for 20 years, together for 6 years before that. So technically, I've been with the same guy.
Time, your whole life almost.
I've been with him for 26 years.
Wow.
Exactly.
Well, what can you tell us about your marriage? Like the goods, the bads, don't do it, do it.
Don't do it. Don't get married. Well, it is.
Grass is always green on the other side, right?
You know what? I am a believer of quotes, and that's one quote that, has come across my life all the time. Grass is always greener on the other side. But you know what? Sometimes you just need to look at your own grass and water that shit, right?
Okay, what
grass
do you mean?
Isn't always greener on the other side.
It definitely isn't.
There was a situation where I know somebody who had that total midlife crisis. I'm going to go check out what's out there. Grass is always greener on the other side, but you know what brought that person home? The grass on the side that he was in, because he realized that there was a reason why he was with that person in the first place, and he wanted to jump back over the fence and take care of the grass that he had in his own house. But your question was, what would you say about marriage? Marriage is hard. I would laugh and joke and say, don't do it. I always joke, actually, when I see a lot of young people getting engaged. I joke and tell them, don't do it, don't get married. But I'm just half joking about that. Marriage really is hard. It gets harder as, again, I just said I'm celebrating 20 years. It gets harder as the years go by because you're not the same person anymore. Like, I am not the same person I was when I got married in 1998.
Do you think your husband's personality and that kind of changed you to who you are today? Like, what changed? What made you change?
I don't think it's necessarily just my husband's personality that changed. I think just over time, like, people change, right? Seasons change, people change. Sing it, girl. No, so I think it's just over time, just becoming a mom, raising my children. I think, raising a teenage girl. Sammy was like into concerts and stuff and going out and seeing things through her eyes, doing more things, and not wanting to feel like I'm an old lady. Like, I would say maybe about 8 years ago, I went through this period of my life where it's kind of like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing to myself? Looking at myself in the mirror like, wow, you totally look like a mom. You drive a minivan, look at yourself, right? And again, it's not like I changed.
So it's situational.
Yeah, and I still had, like, my girlfriends. I still went out all the time. We had girls' night out. But over the years, my husband and I, we just kind of stopped doing things together. We used to do things all the time together.
Did you think like laziness or kids? What got in the way?
I think, oh God, this is a whole different podcast. But I think for our situation, a lot of it is because of the kids, right? Because we have kids in our life. There's a lot of things we can't do, like, so easily as we used to before. For our situation, there was a time where my husband, he had a restaurant, so he was out all the time at night because it was a bar. And then I was at home with the kids. So it got to a point where he kind of had his own groove going on. And then I got my own groove going on. So we had separate little grooves going on. And then we kind of forgot about each other. So, I mean, our marriage is far, far, far from perfect.
But I don't think there is a perfect marriage.
Yeah,
there's not a perfect relationship. There's not a perfect person besides me.
Corby is the only perfect person in this world.
Yes, I am.
Whoever wants to marry her, she is taking applications.
Yes, I am. I'm just joking. But I think, like, there's no real word is perfect. I think when it comes to relationships, but I think, like, it's how you two can be as perfect as possible together.
Together. Yeah. Well, see, that brings up another thing when you talk about marrying someone, right? So
Yeah.
you marry someone because you feel like they're right for you, right?
Mhm.
So Mr. Right or
Mm.
Mrs. Right. At the time when I met my husband, I was coming off of a relationship and nothing was really wrong with that. I think it was me. I was just feeling like I was scared at that point in my life. My husband is basically the complete opposite of my boyfriend before I met him,
Mhm.
right? And he's exactly who I wanted at the time. You know, again, I'm not saying
But that was
he's
your
a different-
expectation. He had certain expectations. You wanted
Yeah.
somebody to, you know,
At
get
the
married to
time.
and be at the right place at the
No,
right
no, no.
time.
Well, it wasn't that I wanted to get married at the time when I met my husband.
Mhm.
I met him during a period of my life. I just did this total shift
Mhm.
because I was with a person that I was scared, not necessarily because of him. He wasn't scared. It was me. I was scared of what the next step was going to be for me, what my life might look like with
Mhm.
that person.
Mhm.
And I got really scared. And then I met my husband around that time. And again, we didn't get married till 6 years later, but that's a different story
Mhm.
in and of itself. But I always laugh when my girlfriends look back and they, you talk to your girlfriends, you talk about, who you've been with in the past and everything. And they always talk about how my husband is different from the past guy I've been with. And we always laugh and joke. I said,
Mhm.
well, because sometimes you end up with someone who is the exact opposite of the person you were dating before.
Yeah.
Because that's what I needed in my life at the time. There's nothing wrong with the guy, but my husband was who I needed at the time. I was just finishing up college and I didn't want to be serious. And I met my husband. We were going out all the time. We were partying all the time. We did all this stuff together. And then, you know how it goes. All of my friends, they got their mans. He has a big group of friends, right? They had their girlfriends and we all kind of grew together. We all started working and everything. And one by one, each couple started getting married. I got married in my late 20s.
That's young.
Everything else is a blur.
Yeah.
Everything else is a blur because it's okay, got married, had kids. I think over, I would say in my 30s to like mid 40s, that's when I would look back on the marriage. We could have really lost it at that time because you start to coast. Because I've been with this man for 26 years,
Mhm.
26 years plus.
Mhm.
And we definitely got to a point where we started to coast. I mean, I don't know how all these people did it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's
my
tough.
parents, they've been married for a long time.
I think if
That's a
you've
good question.
been married for a long time, there's a handful of people who are super happy with each other, who can't live without each
I
other.
know. Which is
And those are the
awesome.
ones we envy and, want to try to get in their mind, like, what made you last so long and
Yeah,
are still in
yeah.
love?
Yeah,
But
what's the
majority,
secret sauce?
yeah, but majority of people that I know are coasting or at the terms of like, okay, I can't really stand you anymore, or it's kind of becomes a love-hate relationship because you love them, but you hate a lot of things that they do. They annoy you. But then also, if you leave them, you don't know what the outside world is anymore. Outside
Exactly.
world sucks. Let me tell you guys, don't leave your marriages.
Oh, outside world sucks. You
It
know who's out there?
sucks.
Party's out there.
Yeah, and I can vouch that it sucks. Like, it is not fun. The dating game has changed
Yeah.
incredibly
Yeah.
since I was dating earlier, and it's just expectations are completely different. It's majority booty calls now, very less commitments.
Right.
Just people just don't want a partner for life now. It's just kind of like, okay, well, you're cute, you're perfect in every way, but I want to see what this
What's
other
out
person
there.
has.
See, so
And so,
that's
if you can make your marriage work, I really hope you do and can, because the other side of the grass is hella black.
It's brown, it's black.
It is
No
deteriorated.
one's mowed it in a long time.
It is deteriorated. It's not fun. It's not fun unless you're like in an abusive relationship or something you just have to get out of.
Right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But and I've also noticed like a lot of people who are married, they end up leaving their significant others after finding somebody else that's already in the pipeline. That's happened to one
They're
of my
doing
friends.
that because they want to be sure that they're not alone.
They want,
but that's not.
that's not okay. But they
that's
want
not
a
good.
lifeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
they
that's
don't
not
wanna be
really-
alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a lifeline. I mean, being alone sucks,
Yeah.
and you have to start over, especially like with our age. It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
You know how, have you heard a lot of people say a lot of times, like in this day and age, people are so quick to get a divorce? Well, I've heard
Yes.
that a lot by like my my elders.
You don't help. You don't work on it anymore. You
Right.
just walk away.
But then you know what I'm finding lately, like more and more, as I talk to other people who have been married for a long time are not getting a divorce because they don't want to leave. They're
The
afraid.
comfort zone. Yeah.
So they just decide to just stay. But are they staying for the wrong reasons?
It could be. Some people stay for merit. Some people stay for comfort.
Yeah.
Some people stay because they don't like change.
Well, how do you know? When do you know to like pull the trigger, right? Because how do you know?
Well, that's
like
why
you keep
people do a
trying.
separation trial, right?
Yeah.
People separate for a bit and see if they can
Yeah.
deal with it. And that's, the trial period of like, okay, let's get separated. And then if we enjoy it better than being together, then maybe, But it's also temporary too, right?
Yeah.
Separation's temporary. Like, I mean, some people have separations for a
they?
long time, but like the feeling is temporary of a separation. So it's kind of like you neglect yourself of having chocolate for a month, and then you're like, okay, I can have chocolate. You're gonna gorge on that
On
chocolate.
that chocolate.
But once you're done gorging, you're gonna be tired of it again. You're gonna be like, I don't want any more chocolate, right? So it's kind of separation. I feel is a temporary feeling. Like you out there, you're like the whole world's your oyster, and you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna go clubbing. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna meet girls and guys. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have my alone time because you've been neglecting that part of you for so many years. But then after, maybe it might take somebody a year, it might take somebody like less, but after or more, but after that you're kind of still in the same situation, so so that's, I think, what people try out too, like, okay, if you and I separate and we go and sow our oats, am I okay coming back to you or not?
Right.
So I don't know, it is tough. Marriage, I'm sure I can't vouch for it, but if a relationship is tough, I can't imagine a marriage because you're stuck with that person 24/7 and there's no running away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, so when you were just talking right now about separation, are people treating separation as their free pass to go out?
Yeah.
That's not right, though.
Yeah.
Separation should be, well, I don't know. Who
I mean,
am to say
I
whether
don't
it's
know,
right
but
or
I
not?
don't know but I think separation is for people to go out and do what they want to do. And a lot of times I'm sure people sleep with other people because you're separated. It's kind of like the golden ticket, right? Like, oh, I'm giving you a golden pass today. Like, go and do what you want to do kind of thing. But again, that's a tricky thing too because you can get stuck in something. It's just really hard. My parents have been married 50 years.
I know. My parents too. They've had their golden, 50 plus.
I know,
How do
50
they do
years.
it?
And I will say,
How many
my
kids do
parents.
your parents have? 4, right?
3. There's 3 of us.
My parents have
But I will say it's not an ideal marriage.
Wow.
And for us in our generation, we would have left that marriage a long time ago.
So why do you say it's not ideal?
Because at this point in their life, they're just roommates
Oh my God.
instead of like,
You know what? You are not the first person who I've heard that about.
Yeah. You become roommates because, and I think a lot of it has to do with ego and emotions. I think like my dad doesn't really know how to show affection and emotion. And my mom needs that.
Oh.
So when you don't get that, you kind of separate yourself from it, right?
So why do you think your parents
Stay together?
stayed together?
Initially, it was for the kids,
Yeah.
right? Initially, like, let the kids go to college, and then, we'll think about whether or not want to stay together. But then, at this point in time, they're both in their 70s, and it's kind of like they depend on each other 100%. It's a dependency now. Yeah.
But that's sad, though. So when did they realize, do you think, that...
Well, my mom realized the second day of her marriage.
So before you guys came up...
Yes. She's like, oh, damn, going to get me out of here. No. I think...
Get out. I don't.
Can we do a separation today?
Remember when I said I do 2 days ago? I don't now.
Yeah.
I changed my mind.
No, I think for them, I think it was when I was in like middle school. When they came to America, in India, like I'm Indian, right? So in India, there's no such thing as divorce at that time.
I know.
You're kind of like screwed. Like you're thrown in the fire and you sink or
Philippines.
swim, whatever. Like you burn it out, right?
Yeah.
Then
divorce is bad.
It's taboo. Nobody does it.
Yeah.
What are you gonna? And
Breaking
at the
the rules.
time, the husbands brought the money, so the women had like no opportunities to work. Nobody would pay them. They were really reliant on their husband, right? And the husbands, that's why they have this ego because they know they have somebody reliant on them, right?
Yeah.
That's why they treat you like slaves out there because they're like, oh, well, I got you now. But now equality is happening, so that's great. But for my parents, I think when they came to America, they knew that it was less of a taboo here. But there's a
So
couple
why do you
things.
think they didn't decide, like,
the
after
kids,
coming
for
here?
sure. The other thing was they barely spoke English. What are they going to do separately? Where are they going to go?
But did you guys feel this?
I did, you know,
as
honestly,
growing up?
yeah, like there's definitely when your parents are unhappy, it's definitely ricochets. You definitely know, and so I think it did. I think when my parents said that, hey, I think we're gonna get divorced, I just started crying. I was like, I don't want to choose, and I love you guys both equally, and I want a house that I both can go to, and you know, like I was like devastated.
Yeah.
I didn't want to choose a parent. I
Yeah.
loved both of them, you know, but I think like at the end of the day. I think at the end of the day, they were like, okay, no, you gotta like just stick it through. And I think my mom made a mental decision that he'll just be like a roommate.
Oh my
He
God!
won't
But
be a
that's a big sacrifice.
My mom sacrificed a lot, yeah.
And I wonder how many people are like that.
hmm
I mean, again, I'm not trying to bash marriage.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, I have a friend who has the same background. She's not Indian, but she's Spanish. And her parents, same thing, except to her dad ended up cheating on his mom. They got back together. They had a very awful relationship. And now they're in their 70s, and she's divorcing him.
Oh
She's
my
like,
God.
I'd rather spend the next 20 years or whatever amount of time I have on this earth without you
5 years
than
without
with you.
Oh my God.
And the funny thing is, like, she was trapped too. She stayed with him for the kids. Then she stayed with him because she was like, well, I don't know what else to do. I'm not working. And, you know, like, I don't know what to do with myself. Where will I go? We'll have to get a new apartment. Like, it just didn't make sense.
You know what? Kudos to her though
Yeah.
for making the
But she
decision,
was-
even though it took hella long.
She was like, well, yeah, I mean, I think she tried. But then she's like, I'd rather, even if it's like next 6 months and I pass away after 6 months, it'll be the happiest 6 months of my life than to be with you.
Oh my God.
So,
Did the guy not realize?
oh, he knows. He knows. They've had a really bad relationship. I just didn't think he knew that it was actually going to happen. They're so old now, you know.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt bad because I'm like, well, what's the husband going to do?
Well,
Who's going
I'm
to cook for
laughing.
him? I was like, because women can take care of ourselves.
women
We
Well,
cook.
guys could too, though.
They can.
Guys could.
Like, but in our generations, my dad would
Yeah.
not survive without my mom. He doesn't cook. He doesn't clean. He doesn't do anything, right?
Wow.
My mom does all that stuff.
mom does
So
all
my
that.
mom can survive. My
Wow.
dad would die. Like, you wouldn't know what to do
What
with
am I
himself.
gonna do? What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Or
Like,
walk
who's
into
going
the
to
wall.
cook for me? Who's going to make me my tea? Who's going to, like, you know?
Wow, that's crazy, and it's
Yeah.
amazing at the same time. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's more people out there that
Yeah.
you know, like especially like we were talking. Were we talking about this earlier? Or am I like blocking this out? When you see on social media
Mm-hmm.
where you see people post stuff and it looks like they've got the best marriage, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no.
And
Social
you know,
media is
like-
the biggest lie.
Yeah, you know the real dirty laundry behind that. whole
Yeah,
thing.
usually if somebody posts happiness photos, usually it's the opposite.
Right.
You're trying to
Exactly.
cover some shit up.
Right. That's
You
why I'm
ain't
not
happy?
posting any.
Especially those girls or guys who are like overly excited about
Yeah.
everything. Like, oh, I went on this date. And then like 2
Right.
days later, they're like, yeah, he wasn't the right guy. Like, yeah, bitch, he dropped you.
Exactly. It wasn't the best. See, that's why even on social media, when people are like, you know, you say happy birthday to your spouse, right?
Yeah.
In person.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, yeah, you got to do it on Facebook too.
Yeah, you have to
I
do
mean,
a
I think
special
that's
shout
cool
out,
because
yeah.
you got to do the special shout out. But then I don't necessarily do that. Or maybe I used to a long time ago. But
Yeah.
now I don't really shout my husband out. I shout Nick Rhodes out because he has the same birthday as my husband. But anyway, going back to our topic, for me, marriage, you're asking what I would say about it,
Mhm.
what I would do. I know I jokingly said I would don't do it, don't
Yeah.
ever get married. No, that's just me being.
Well, it's
like
not
a
going to
bit-
happen. People are going to get married.
People can get married, but I think the key thing is just stay true to yourself. I mean, I know it seems weird or like kind of selfish for me to say, hey, look, you know what? Think about yourself. You know,
you
especially
have
after you
to.
get married, but you do.
You do have
And
to
I
think about yourself.
Corby's mom. That's
I
the biggest
know.
sacrifice she
Yeah.
made. But imagine, picture this, Corby. Imagine if your mom made that decision. She realized it on day 2. Let's say she realized it in year 2. She could have been like, hey,
Mhm. She could have walked away.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I wouldn't be here. But I think if they would have gotten divorced, I don't know. I mean, I can't foresee it, but I don't know if they would be happy individually or together. I don't know. I'm sure they'd be happier.
So do you hold out? You hold out and wait for the right person to come
I don't know if
along?
my
You
mom
just
would
never
ever
know.
marry again because she's just, you know, I think traditionally, like, my mom.
And how do
generation
you
just
know,
never
like,
really
to
did.
hold out? I mean, I know we talked in prior episodes where the dating scene, people don't want to commit because they're afraid, right? But then on the other hand, when you're about to get married and you think, okay, this is my Mr. Right, this is the one, he's the one I want to be with, you don't know that later on that
You don't.
you turn into a different person and your Mr. Right was Mr. back
But you
then.
know, to be honest, you always know.
Do you always know?
I think so. I think, like, from people I've talked to myself. I've been engaged before.
I know,
And,
girl. Yes, you have.
Yeah. Close.
So you know what? You did the thing. You were selfish and said, bye, Felicia.
It wasn't about being selfish. It was about my intuition.
Yeah.
We always know women have the best intuition. We just never listen to it.
Check.
Yeah, you have to check yourself. Like, and a lot of times we make excuses for our intuition, right? Because when I was like, gonna break off my engagement, I was like, no, Purvi, you're just getting cold feet. This is what happens. You're getting scared. You're gonna lose your single life. You're just scared. But in reality, I was getting those hesitations because I knew it wasn't the right fit, right?
So why did you know that when you took that ring from him?
I did. I've always known. I've always known. But again, we make excuses like, oh, maybe if we do this, if we go to counseling, or if we do this or that, if we spend more time together, if we live together, things will change. Things will be better. And you make excuses for your intuition.
Yeah.
Right?
When you finally realize.
And then luckily I realized before I got married, but a lot of people realized after, like, I knew that was a mistake. I was going to try hard anyway. And a lot of my friends that are divorced now said that, like, I knew it was a mistake going in, but I figured we can make it work.
Right.
We can figure it out.
Right.
And then you can't. You just have to go with your gut.
Yeah. And then there's those people who don't feel like it's a mistake when they get married, but as they go through the years of being married, sometimes they have to ask themselves every day, like, who's this person I'm married to?
Maybe it was a temporary person, right? Like, maybe that's the way it is. Like, everybody's a temporary person. That's why I'm getting married hella late. So my temporary person, I'll be dead by then.
When you're going to be dead. Your temporary person
like, I'm ready for my next person. And I'm like, oh, damn, I'm in a deathbed.
Your temporary person is going to come to your funeral. I'm here. And I'm going to look at him. I'm going to say, she dead.
She dead.
She died.
You're no longer temporary.
On that note, anyway, that was a good discussion. It kind of makes me like sad and happy about marriage, but I think
there are good things to marriage. Having a companion for life, and sharing ideas and thoughts. I honestly think that people underestimate marriages because honestly, I go home to a sad place.
Purvi, no, you don't.
Because even though you have, like, I go out every day, I have a lot of friends, I hang out, but you're emotionally alone. But when you're married, at least you have somebody to bounce ideas off of, or like have talked to, or be like.
Married people sometimes go home to a sad place.
That's
it
true.
Depends. So I think when you're married, I guess my final thought on marriage is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Marriage is hard. So you're either in it to win it. Don't just let go right away. But then also really think about it. Set it aside, like Purvi said. Don't make excuses for your intuition.
Yeah.
I think we'll do that a lot.
Yeah.
So marriage is hard, but it doesn't mean don't get married.
Yeah. It's hard, but worth it?
Hard, but worth it, because you get kids, you get memories, but
some days are harder than others. But at the end of the day, when you're falling naked in your bathtub, somebody's there to get you out of it.
You know what? I just have life alert, and I get the fireman to save me when I'm naked.
No one wants to see that but your husband.
Especially when I'm old and wrinkly. Oh, picture that. On that note, with the picture of me naked falling in the bathtub.
No one wants to picture that. Except the husband.
Except my husband.
And maybe not even that.
Probably not even especially not my husband. Anyway, with that, we're going to end this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys have any ideas, comments, questions about the topic of marriage, or any suggestions of new topics, let us know. Email us at thatswhatwesaidpc@gmail.com, or visit our website. It'll be in the show notes. And thanks for listening in. Come back next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Purvi, Gabe is going to be so proud of us. You want to know why?
Why?
Because you got us these new microphones and our quality is that much better.
Who cares what Gabe says?
Ooh, did you hear that, Gabe? Say it again.
Who cares what Gabe says?
This
Bye,
is
boy. Bye,
challenging.
Felipa.